Hello everyone, my name is Hailey Elizabeth, and if you don't know who I am, I post videos pertaining to a little bit of whatever I want: vlogs, conspiracy theories, controversial people, true crime, and all things spooky, scary skeletons. So if you're into any of that, you can subscribe, and if not, no big deal, like no pressure. We're just here to talk about some true crime, do some makeup. I dyed my hair red, as you can see, and my blonde is already starting to come through. I don't know if you could see that. I also changed my room around. I thought it would look cool or cute if my mattress was right underneath my window so I could lay little things on my windowsill. I think that's all I need to say. I'm kind of like zoning out this episode. Falls asleep. Anyway, but before getting into the rest of today's video, I do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Karma. Now, if you guys don't know what Karma is an app/Chrome extension that makes sure that you will never miss another coupon code, a restock, or a price drop on any of your favorite items. As you guys may have noticed in this video, I did move around my room a little bit. Whilst the redecorating process of my room, I was actually using Karma to make sure that I was getting the best prices on all of my decor. Karma is honestly so helpful and so easy to use, and it's so easy to use that I'm actually going to show you right now how to use it. Installing Karma is so easy. It's literally boom, ba-da-doom, and look at me. Like, now we have it. Let's get this show on the road. One of my favorite brands, Jerf Avenue. There's this dress. Oh my god, where is it? Here it is. This dress is beautiful. Look at this. This is so pretty. But that's not so pretty. All I'm gonna do is click the little Karma icon in the corner, notify me when there's any price change. And with Karma, you can also create little lists. So for here, I got clothes and I got makeup. It just helps everything stay organized, you know? So you know exactly where all your stuff is. And there you go. Product updated. Every time this piece goes on sale, like there's a price drop or a restock, or even if Karma finds a coupon code, Karma will send me a notification via text or email. Karma just eliminates all buyer's remorse. Like, say I buy something and then all of a sudden after I buy it at full price, I find out that just last week they had like a week-long sale on this product I was searching for, but since I didn't have Karma, I wasn't aware of that price drop. Karma's there for you. Like, they're gonna help you out. They're gonna be like, girl, you're gonna get this. Like, we're gonna let you know. They actually scan the web for coupon codes at checkout, and look at that. I'm about to check out at Ulta, and oh, coupon codes found, 10 of them. Can I save some money? Let's see. Drum roll. Look at me go. I literally just saved $6 by clicking one button. Literally by clicking one button, and now I can buy myself a venti coffee from Starbucks. That is beautiful. Honestly, the coupon code feature is such a cool feature, and it's only something that you can get when using a computer, so that's why the web extension is definitely a must. And another really cool feature about Karma is their cash back. Like, look at all these brands. Bed Bath & Beyond. That is beautiful. I'm about to buy me a new comforter. Like, actually. If you guys want Karma for yourself, make sure to click the link down below, and thank you again to Karma for sponsoring today's video. Now back to your video. Mwah, 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 mwah. Love you. Love you. The Richardson family was comprised of the father, Mark, the mother, Deborah, the little son, Jacob, and the daughter, Jasmine. How the mom and dad, Mark and Deborah, even met: when Mark was a kid, he was really involved with like biker gangs, and in these biker gangs, he fell into a substance abuse. Unfortunately, Deborah also as a kid fell into substance abuse. So in 1991 in Ontario, Canada, that is actually when Mark and Deborah had met at a recovery center. And the mother was said to be very like uplifting. She was very lively, had a great personality. And when they met, they immediately, you know, it was like love at first sight. There was a lot of chemistry there, and also they had a lot of things in common, and they were really there for each other on their, you know, recovery journeys. That same exact year in 1991, they got married, and then in 1992, the following year, they had their first child, a daughter named Jasmine. That same exact year in 1992, Mark got a job in Okotoks, Alberta, Canada. I believe that's how you pronounce it. They moved there to support Mark's job, but also to support their new child. After living there for a long time, in 1998, that is when they had their second child, a son named Jacob. The family didn't really have much money, but they tried, their hardest to make sure that their kids had everything that they needed. Deborah was a sponsor for recovering substance abusers, and the father, Mark, worked as a technician, and the family was very active churchgoers. They would go every single Sunday. In September of 2003, that is when Mark actually got a promotion at his job, and this job allowed him to move to a better part of town and move into a lot bigger of a house. This is when they moved to Medicine Hat, Alberta in Canada, more specifically the Ross Glen area, which was a very quiet, middle-class suburban town. Their house was a 2-story home, so perfect for their family, and it just seemed like, this point in their life, they were really starting to, get things together and settle down. During this time of 2003, where Deborah, as I said, she would work odd jobs, but she would mostly sponsor recovering substance abusers, but she started to get very interested in holistic therapy like Wicca, aura cleansing, and Reiki, so she actually opened up her own studio in the home, and that is where she performed a lot of her therapies. As far as Jacob and Jasmine's relationship, Jacob and Jasmine had a very close relationship. Jacob really looked up to his big sister because Jasmine was so free-spirited. She would talk to everyone, super outgoing. As far as their behavior wasn't really off at all. Their schools and stuff like that at this time said that they were normal kids. They were polite, they were creative, they did their work on time, they had friends. There was really nothing really to note during these early years. But that all changed in 2004 when Jasmine went from 10 years old to 11 years old. And at 11 years old, she started to go through what some would call her goth phase. She went from wearing her regular everyday clothes, little to no makeup, and now she was wearing heavy black makeup, wearing only black clothing, sort of Spencer's era. She would wear like dog collars and tutus and short mini skirts. This is also when she started to get herself on the internet. So she had accounts on websites like MySpace, Nexopia, and Vampire Freaks. But on all of these accounts, she would never say her actual age, but she would just say that she was 15 years old, because with Jasmine, she was only 11 years old, but she did not look 11 years old. A lot of her friends would say that she looked a lot older. Whenever she would go to the movie theater with her friends, they would just let her into an R-rated movie without looking at her ID. So on her account, because she knew that people would freak out if they found out she was 11, she only said that she was 15. On her profile, she not only said that she was 15, but she also said that she was a nocturnal Wiccan. As I said, her mom was really interested in like Wicca, so I feel like through her mom, like Jasmine naturally also had an interest in that. And her two biggest idols were Jeffrey Dahmer and Marilyn Manson. As far as her parents' ideas on this, big switch in Jasmine, her parents surprisingly didn't really say much about this transition, mostly because they didn't know about any of her social media accounts. They thought that maybe this was just a way for her to express herself. She wanted to dress up in tutus, and that's what made her feel confident. Then they were gonna let her do that because it really wasn't hurting anyone at the end of the day. It was just making her feel more better about herself. Through all of her social media accounts, she would frequently meet new friends in her area. These friends ranged from like 15 to 19 years old. They were all girls like her, and they were interested in these local rock shows. So every time there was like a local rock show going on, she would always go with her friends, see who was performing, and dance and mosh pit. At these rock shows, rock music is for mature audiences. So at these rock shows, she would meet a lot of older men. But as I said, everyone thought that she was 15 when in reality, she was 11 years old. Her parents were not aware that she was going to these local rock shows either. Jasmine would frequently sneak out of the house to attend these rock shows. When her parents found this out, they enforced more stricter stricter rules on Jasmine, restricted her from going to these rock concerts anymore because, as I said, the parents were substance abusers and they were very young when they got into these things, so they were really scared for Jasmine to go out to these rock concerts and kind of, you know, do the same thing that they used to do. Due to these stricter rules, Jasmine and her parents got into fights a lot, get into arguments, they would yell at each other, they would just never ever see eye to eye. Jasmine's school counselor, like from Jasmine's file, that Jasmine actually tried to get put into foster care a couple of times because she said that her parents basically treated her like a prisoner and she couldn't go anywhere, she couldn't see anyone, she couldn't do anything she wanted to do, but she was of course declined for foster care all those times that she tried for it. She went to a Catholic school, so there was like a strict no makeup, no crazy outfits. She would not abide by any of them. She would still show up to school in her dark makeup, in whatever clothes she wanted. One night when Jasmine snuck out of the house to go to a rock concert, that is when she met 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke. Jeremy Steinke's upbringing, he had a lot more of a rougher upbringing than Jasmine. Both of his parents had really bad substance abuse problems, and then when Jeremy was a baby, his birth father actually left him and his mom. Jeremy's future stepfathers were basically just as abusive as his birth father. His mom's new boyfriends would always beat Jeremy. He also has siblings as well, and he recounts a lot of instances where all of these new stepfathers who were either really heavy into drugs or really heavy into alcohol, or maybe, you know, even both, will frequently abuse him and his siblings. This one time he had his head slammed in a freezer. He used to be tied up to chairs and beat. He also moved around a lot. Because of him moving around a lot, it was very hard for him to make friends, and whenever he would try to make friends with people, he would get bullied a lot because of the way that he looked. The fact that he lived in a trailer, he would get bullied for that as well. As Jeremy got older, like into his teenage years, he started to get into drugs and had a really bad drug problem. Jeremy was also very immature for his age. He would tell everyone that he was a 300-year werewolf. He would also threaten to eat people a lot as well. As I said, like, he was just a very odd person. And then at 22 years old, that is when Jeremy started to get into goth culture, rock music, and wearing all black, tattoos and eyebrow piercings and tongue piercings. He kind of fell in love with all of this and would attend local rock shows. He attracted a lot of younger teenage girls because since he was 23, he was able to buy alcohol. He also had a car so he could drive, and Jeremy was a little creep, so he didn't really stop anyone. In January of 2006, Jasmine and her friend Casey went to a rock concert, and Casey actually introduced Jasmine to Jeremy because she thought they had a lot in common and they would probably hit it off together, which Casey was 100% right, because that whole entire night, Jasmine and Jeremy just talked and talked and talked. They didn't even really watch the show. So then at the end of the night, they exchanged numbers so then they could keep in contact. And then on February 6th of 2006, that is when Jeremy had formally asked Jasmine to be his girlfriend in an email. Mind you, Jeremy is 23 and he is aware at this point that Jasmine is 12, because eventually she had to tell him the truth that she wasn't 15, and even if she was 15, he is fully aware that this girl is in the 7th grade and he is 23. To Jeremy's question of asking Jasmine out, she of course said yes. They started going on dates to like local rock concerts. They would go out to eat. They would talk all the time on the phone and in their private chats. Jasmine also said that Jeremy would frequently write songs for her and perform them to her on his guitar because he knew how to play guitar. But because of this, Jasmine started sneaking out more and more often because she wanted to see Jeremy more often. Since she was sneaking out so much, that is when her parents decided to ground her. And then one night, she was supposed to watch Jacob, who was 8 years old at the time. Her parents left and she told Jacob that she was going to go to the gas station, when in reality, she was probably just going to like another rock concert or hang out with her friends. But as soon as Jasmine left, Jacob called the parents, told on Jasmine, and said, Jasmine left and I'm here at the house all by myself. I'm kind of scared because I'm 8 years old. And then the parents flipped out, and the rules around the house regarding Jasmine Jasmine just got so much more strict. Although she was grounded, like she couldn't go out of the house, she still wasn't really grounded from her social media privileges, mostly because she would always tell her parents that she needed like the computer in order to do her homework and stuff, but in reality she was just on her social media networks, still in contact with Jeremy this entire time, basically just ranting about how her parents are super strict and they're putting all these crazy rules. At first their messages would be very like romantic, of like, oh, I miss you, da 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 da, but then their messages started to get really dark. A quote that Jeremy said to Jasmine in one of their chat logs: "You were a sight for sore eyes and I miss you more than killing people. Can we get together and kill people together?" To which she replies, "Killing people sounds like fun. And yes, I shall miss you too, a large amount. That cannot be contained in mere words. I love you." Finally, the parents are, you know, like, maybe we should check up on that computer of hers. So the parents unlock the computer and they find everything. They find all of the chat logs that she has with all these older men, and she finds her and Jeremy's chat log. All these provocative photos of her, and she's saying that she's 15 years old. This made the parents even more mad and more scared for their daughter. At this point, the parents just kind of felt helpless because there was really nothing for them to do. They knew that no matter how strict of rules they gave Jasmine, she was just gonna find a way to just do whatever she wants. In order to kind of stop this trend, they decided to get family counseling in order to better understand Jasmine. So basically the parents was just doing like exactly what they're supposed to be doing, and this family counseling ended up surprisingly working out. For the first couple of weeks, they really grew closer as a family, and the parents were able to better understand Jasmine. About a couple weeks into this family counseling, the parents allowed Jasmine to go to a rock concert, but the only condition is that the parents had to go with. Since Jasmine really missed her friends and she really missed the rock concerts that she used to go to, she agreed and said, okay, you guys can come with if that means I can go out to this concert. Her parents were religious, but they didn't really mind the music that Jasmine listened to. Again, they just kind of saw it as like, oh, if they're not hurting anyone, then where's the harm in it? About 30 minutes into the concert, the parents had lost Jasmine, and so they were asking all of her friends where Jasmine had went, and they had no clue. So at this point, they started freaking out because they thought that they lost her, until they went to the back alley of the venue and they saw Jasmine making out with 23-year-old Jeremy. They freaked out. They pulled Jasmine off of him and told Jeremy never to talk to Jasmine again, that he was a creep and a pedophile. How dare you like leech onto 12-year-old girls? You're disgusting. And they basically just told him never to talk to Jasmine again. Now, since Jasmine had been so like groomed by this man at this point, she felt like she was really in love with him. Because of this incident, she really despised her parents. The parents had no choice but to take away all of her privileges. They took away her computer, they took away her phone. She still found ways to contact Jeremy. Her school had like a library, and in that library they had computers that like anyone could use. At her school computer, just sit there all day, skip all of her classes, and talk to Jeremy online all day. One of these emails that Jasmine had sent Jeremy read, "So I have this plan. It begins with me killing them and ends with me living you. So are we set? I'm going to try to call you, but I don't really know if I will be able to. They're treating me like bloop. I hate them so much, but I hope this won't bring us far apart. I hope to talk to you soon. Love you with all my heart, love." And then to that, he replies, "Well, I love your plan, but we need to get a little more creative with the details and stuff. I wish they wouldn't treat you that way. Grr, it angers me to hear that. I dislike them very much. Don't worry, I love you too, my sexy beast. I hope to hear from you soon, too. Take care, my love. You have the key to my heart, and soon enough you shall have my heart. If I die, 'cause if I give it to you now and I die, you won't be able to hear how much I love you." So essentially the plan was Jasmine and Jeremy were going to kill Jasmine's parents so that Jasmine and Jeremy can be together. And when she proposed this plan to Jeremy, Jeremy was on board and he was like, let's start cooking up the details. Like, he just did not see how this was a problem. And then on March 24th of 2006, so literally just 4 days after they started proposing the plan, Jeremy writes this on his MySpace page. "My girlfriend's family are totally unfair and they say that they really care. They don't know what is going on. They just assume as their greed continues to consume. She is slowly going insane. She continues to think that I came into her life to help her out and stop what they keep trying to shout. They will regret the blank they have done, especially when I see it that they are gone. They shall pay for their insolence. Finally, there will be silence. Their blood shall be payment." He just wrote that. And then nobody said anything. They were like, "Oh, silly Jeremy. What are you on about again?" Like, they did not care. And this was not, you know, just online. Jeremy was constantly talking to his friends in real life, talking about killing Jasmine's parents, and Jasmine would even talk to her friends. One day she was gonna kill her parents because she is just so frustrated with them. She hates them. Her friends, when they heard her say this, they didn't really take it seriously. They just kind of thought like she was just saying it broadly, like, "Oh, I hate my parents. I'm gonna kill them." I don't know. Not like that, but like whenever you hear people say like, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you," hopefully you know where I'm getting at. Like when people say it but they don't really mean it, sort of thing. That's kind of what her friends thought. Mid-April of 2006, Jeremy was hanging out with a friend, smoking with this friend. Jeremy turns to his friend and basically just admits to his friend that he was going to murder Jasmine's parents, but he needed help because he couldn't do this on his own, and asked if his friend would be in. And his friend just kind of laughed. He was like, "Why would you say something like that?" He also continued to ask other friends as well if they would help him in the murdering of Jasmine's parents. So as I said, he was super open about the subject, but also ran to a lot of his friends as well, saying that if he doesn't kill Jasmine's parents, Jasmine will break up with him, and he can't bear the fact of Jasmine not being in his life. So he felt like he really had no choice but to kill Jasmine's parents. He's an adult. He's a grown adult. Jasmine would also say things to Jeremy like, "If you really loved me, you would do this for me. If you don't do this, I'm gonna break up with you because it shows that you truly don't care about me." And the more Jasmine said that, the more Jeremy felt like he needed to do it, even though he didn't need to. Saturday, April 22nd of 2006, that is when the plan was going to be executed. The mom, the dad, Jacob, and Jasmine basically just had a barbecue outside. Jeremy, though, he spent the entire day drinking and doing drugs, basically trying to numb himself for what he's about to do. He bought a 12-pack of beer, drank all of it. He also drank all of the beer that his mom had in the fridge. He also got a bunch of drugs and did a bunch of drugs. At 9 p.m., Jeremy drives to a friend's house to ask that friend one last time if he would help him murder Jasmine's parents. Now, when this friend heard like Jeremy say this to him in a panic, like he really needed someone, he tried to calm Jeremy down, make sure to tell him that everything was going to be okay, because this friend didn't really take Jeremy seriously. He just kind of assumed that maybe Jeremy was on some sort of drug and he was just saying random things. Once Jeremy was kind of calmed down, he went back to his house where he invited another friend over, and him and his friend watched the movie Natural Born Killers. Now, if you guys don't know the movie Natural Born Killers, it's basically about a girl and a guy who kills the girl's parents so they could be together. But instead of killing the younger brother in the movie, they let the younger brother live. And Jeremy's friend said that in this moment, Jeremy turned to him and said, "See, that's where mine and Jasmine's situation is different, because Jasmine is actually gonna kill her brother." And the friend was like, "Ah ha ha ha, okay," like just didn't really say much, mostly because like, I mean, I'd be scared too. And that movie kind of gave him like motivation to do it. Jeremy, in order to amp himself up, around 3 a.m., that is when he went to his drug dealer and got some cocaine. So he did a bunch of cocaine. He downed a bottle of wine and a bottle of vodka where he was close to blackout drunk. He went to Jasmine's house. He threw a pine cone at Jasmine's window, and that was the code where Jasmine would go down to the basement, unlock the basement window, and Jeremy would then go into the basement pretending to break in. As Jeremy was coming in through the basement window as if he was breaking in, as I said, he had just downed some cocaine, wine, and vodka, so he was sort of drunk. He did not come in quietly. He flopped himself in. He was all over the place, and because of this, it actually woke up Deborah, the wife. And so Deborah went down to the basement because she just thought that maybe Jasmine was trying to sneak out again. So she went down to the basement to make sure that she wasn't, and when she did, she came face to face with Jeremy as he was wearing a black ski mask, black fishnet gloves with black hoodie and black pants, and he had a knife in his hand. And when Deborah saw the knife in his hand, she started to scream. My audio became staticky right here for a second, but basically before Deborah could make it up the stairs, Jeremy came up behind her and kind of dragged her back and started stabbing her. And all of this commotion of her screaming and them wrestling, it actually woke up Mark. And then so Mark took a knife from wherever, I'm not really sure where he got the knife from. He went from his bedroom to the kitchen, and that is where he met up with Jeremy. Mark was not some like 23-year-old scrawny kid. Like, Mark was a pretty big, and so when Jeremy came face to face with Mark, he said that in this moment he actually got scared because he realized that he just wasn't prepared for Mark. Jeremy actually said later on that he came at me real fast. I was scared. I thought I was going down. I went back up and I tripped and fell. And he jumped on me and attempted to stab me in the chest. He grabbed my face and shoved his thumbs in my eyes until unfortunately Jeremy had become able to take control of Mark, and he got on top of Mark and he started stabbing Mark. Jeremy dragged Mark's body down to the basement with the mothers. Once everything was done, Jasmine went up to Jeremy and said that she loved him and that she was so proud of him for doing this. The only person left was Jasmine's little brother, Jacob. Now, Jasmine's little brother Jacob was still in his bedroom. He heard all of the yelling and the commotion, but he didn't really know what was going on. Jasmine went upstairs in his room. Jacob was huddled in, and this is so like hard to talk about. He was crying in the corner of his bed, and he had his lightsaber in his hand. Like, whoever was gonna come into the room, he was gonna try to like hit them with it. Jasmine basically like held him and said that it was gonna be okay, and attempted to put him in a chokehold so that he didn't die with any sort of pain or trauma. He died sort of peacefully. She said that she didn't want to not kill him because she didn't want him to suffer through foster care. She said this afterwards, like when she was in interrogation rooms, and I don't believe that for a second, because she herself attempted to go into foster care. She, you know, felt like if he was alive, then he would probably tell on her and say that it was Jasmine and her boyfriend that did all of this, and basically their whole, you know, flawless plan would go out the window. But with Jacob, he was able to break free from Jasmine's chokehold, and as he was running down the stairs, he came face to face with Jeremy, a knife in his hand. He was all bloodied up because he had just killed both of the parents. And when Jacob saw Jeremy, he said the words, "I'm scared and I'm too young to die," which I think is so heartbreaking. Like, oh my God. But after this moment, it becomes very fuzzy about who did what. Jasmine said afterwards that it was actually Jeremy that killed Jacob, but then Jeremy said that Jasmine was a liar and Jasmine was the one that killed Jacob. Nonetheless, after the whole family was dead, that is when Jasmine ran upstairs to go grab her pre-packed to-go bag. As she went upstairs to go grab her bag, that is when Jeremy went downstairs. He sat in his car waiting for Jasmine, but as he was sitting in his car, he starts really sitting with the realization of what just happened, because the whole entire time, you know, this was just moving by so quickly. It really started to hit him like, oh my God, I just killed 2 people. Like, I am going to jail for the rest of my life. Like, I can never get married. I can never travel and see the world. I can never have a career. I can't do anything because I'm going to be locked up for the rest of my life now because of this. And so he started to panic and freak out. So instead of waiting for Jasmine, he just drove and left her at the house, and he kept on driving. 5:25 in the morning, so a couple hours after they committed the crime, in a fright, she decided to call call a cab and take a cab over to Jeremy's house because she figured that Jeremy would probably be at his house. Jeremy actually was at his house. Jasmine was able to calm down Jeremy, scrubbed clean all of the evidence, buried all of the knives that they used, all of their clothes. Later on that night, they actually went to a party. Went to this party and basically did a ton of drugs and drank a lot of alcohol. And whilst they were crossfaded from, you know, testimonies of people at the party, they basically said that Jeremy and Jasmine were just walking around and like bragging to people that they just killed Jasmine's parents. One person actually said that Jeremy said to them that he just killed Jasmine's parents and he gutted them like a fish. Jasmine was even describing the murder of her brother as well, saying, quote, he gurgled when he died, which again is just so. Later on that morning of April 23rd, so the next day, an 8-year-old boy that lived next door that was best friends with Jacob, it was Sunday, and usually on Sundays they go to church, and before church, Jacob and this little boy like to play together. So he asked his mom if he could go over to Jacob's house and see, you know, if he wanted to play, and the mom said yeah because she saw Mark's truck in the driveway. So he went over to the house, he knocked on the doors, but there was no response, and so that is when he looked in the basement window to see if there was anyone home, and he screamed and he ran over to his house and he told his mom that there were bodies in Jacob's house with blood all over them. The mom started panicking, so she went over to the basement window, and that is when she saw the bodies of Deborah and Mark laying bloodied on the basement floor. She called the police. The police showed up and, you know, investigated the area. They found the bodies of Jacob, Deborah, and Mark. Since Jasmine was gone, they didn't really assume Jasmine to be the killer at this point because she was only 12 years old, so they thought that whoever had committed this crime took Jasmine for ransom. They took Jasmine, you know, to sell her or something. At first, put an Amber Alert out for Jasmine and a bunch of missing posters because, again, they just thought that she was missing. They started to investigate the crime scene a little bit further. They saw that there was blood on the light switches. The murderer, whoever had blood on their hands, knew where the light switches were and had the lights on when they were doing this, which is really odd because if you're going to murder someone, you typically keep the lights off. They also found blood in the drawer that holds all of the knives, meaning that whoever did this had to know which drawer in the kitchen held all of the knives. Also called Jasmine's school to get some more information on that she had tried to file for foster care a couple of times. She was a troublemaker. She snuck out of the house all the time. They also spoke with some of Jasmine's friends as well, and Jasmine's friends had told the police that Jasmine talked about killing her parents multiple times. The school counselor actually went into Jasmine's locker and found this really disturbing comic. Basically, a young girl setting her family house on fire while everyone was inside, indicating that Jasmine had some desire to kill her family. So she quickly went from missing posters to wanted posters. They started looking at her more as a suspect than a victim. At the time, Jasmine was only 12 and a half years old, making her the youngest person in all of Canada to be charged with homicide at the time. From the pictures that they were showing everyone on the news, she looked to be very innocent and sweet. Everybody was talking about it. She was all over the newspapers, the actual news. There were posters all over her town and the surrounding towns because they assumed that she was on the run. Since her face was absolutely everywhere and her case was everywhere, this started to worry Jasmine and Jeremy a lot. They started to think that maybe they weren't going to get away with this as quick or as flawlessly as they thought. But coincidentally, Casey, remember Casey, I mentioned her earlier, she's the one who set up Jeremy and Jasmine. She actually asked Jeremy and Jasmine to go on a road trip with her and her two other girlfriends. Trip to Leader, which is about over an hour away from where they were at. So they said yes because they were like, we need to get out of this town. This is a perfect opportunity to go. And at the time, Casey and her two other friends weren't aware of what Jasmine and Jeremy did during 2006, where you couldn't really go on social media on your phone. You more just needed a computer, and none of like the teenagers watched the news or anything, so they were never aware of anything that Jeremy and Jasmine did. A lot of Jeremy's friends that he had, asked to murder Jasmine's parents with went forward to the police, and one of the friends actually told the police that Jeremy and Jasmine, he heard, was going on a road trip to Leader with 3 other friends. This police officer told the police station in Leader, and they had cop cars at every gas station in Leader because they assumed, if they're going on a road trip, they're gonna need gas. And that plan actually worked because they showed up in Leader and they stopped for gas. And when they stopped for gas, an undercover police officer was already there watching the area. Casey and her 2 friends walked into the gas station. They bought a bunch of like snacks and drinks, but on a bulletin board in there, they found a newspaper clipping basically saying that Jasmine was wanted for the murder of her parents along with her photo. Her friends, seeing this, they started freaking out, so they stole the newspaper clipping and they brought it back to Jasmine and said, "Look at this, is this you?" And all Jasmine had to say to that, she laughed and said, "That photo doesn't even look like me." She never denied anything. She just laughed it off. Because of this, they basically had to confess to Casey and the 2 other girls what they had done, which, freaked out Casey and the 2 other girls. But since they had known too much, they needed to come up with a cover story. So that is when the 3 girls agree to cover up for Jeremy and Jasmine if they were interrogated by the police, kind of use themselves as alibis for them. They decided to go to a nearby high school parking lot, so they weren't just sitting in a gas station. But as they left, the undercover cop car followed their truck out and followed them to a high school parking lot. And about 5 minutes after they showed up to this parking lot, that is when the police showed up, circled and swarmed the car, told everyone to get out, and everyone, including the 3 girls, were arrested. On April 25th, 3 days after the actual murder, the 3 girls were eventually let go, and all that was left was Jeremy and Jasmine. As I said, since Jasmine was so young, she was only 12 years old, there was actually this thing in Canada, Youth Criminal Justice Act, where basically if you commit a crime at 12 years old or younger, you are more likely to have a lighter sentence. Again, Jasmine was the youngest person in all of Canada to commit homicide, so when they were making this law, they weren't really thinking of 12-year-olds killing people. They were more thinking of like if a 12-year-old is holding drugs or a gun or something like that. So as far as Jasmine's interrogation, the police tried out a technique where they tried to act more like a fatherly figure instead of a cop, and this did not work on Jasmine. Jasmine the whole entire time kept on saying that she was sorry and she was constantly crying, and that really led nowhere until they had a younger police officer come in. I think he was about like early 20s. He came in and he started talking to Jasmine as if Jasmine was his friend, and this instantly worked on Jasmine. She started opening up to him quite quickly. So in her interrogation, she started to explain the actual night itself. I went into his bedroom, him being Jacob, to try to calm him down. Jeremy came upstairs and he began to say, "We need to kill him. We can't just leave him. I had a knife and I was really having a hard time. He was really pressuring me. I stabbed him in the chest. I slipped him something and I couldn't do it. I was trying to wash it off of me." In Jasmine's interrogation, she just said that Jeremy was the one that killed Jacob. So then the interrogator also offered another technique to Jasmine in which she would write a letter to her parents. What she didn't know is that she was actually just writing her confession. They thought that maybe if they wrote a letter to her parents, she would go into detail or give clues as to how her parents died. "Dear my loverly parental units, I am writing in response to the events on Sunday morning. A terrible thing happened, something I feel was all my fault. You must know I love you all dearly and you are in my prayers. I wish peace upon your souls in the Somerland. To my little brother, I apologize for letting you hear what happened and also causing you any pain or frightening you so much. To my parents, I hope you know that through all of this that has happened, I loved you the whole time. I wish that I could take everything back. I wish it hadn't happened. I wish you were here with me right now because now I have no one. I pray that you can forgive me and Jeremy too because he was under the influence of mind-altering substances and did it out of love for me. He is most possibly the kindest person I've ever met. His wish being for my happiness. Through all of the fights and hatred exchanged, I still love you. I am sorry my sarcasm was taken to heart. I never meant to hurt you. I pray that you can be at peace somehow. As far as Jeremy's confession, kind of similar to Jasmine, but also opposite because Jasmine, she was blaming everything on Jeremy. And Jeremy, he was blaming everything on Jasmine. The police thought that it was more Jeremy's fault than Jasmine's because Jasmine was a 12-year-old girl and Jeremy was a 23-year-old man. He had the mental capacity to stop all of this and realize that what he was doing was wrong. And even if Jasmine did break up with him, she's a 12-year-old girl. So it was probably a good thing that she broke up with him. So this is what he said about his take on the incident. I went upstairs and I watched her cut her brother's throat. She knew it had to be done. I didn't touch him. I just paced, then went outside for fresh air before freaking out and leaving. Since it was kind of, a blame game at this point, they couldn't really get a real story or real confession out of the either of them. It's when they decided to try a new technique that maybe if they spoke in letters to each other, the police could then read those letters thinking that there's some confidential information in them, again leading to a written confession. So these were the exchangement of letters from Jeremy to Jasmine. So I literally read that letter like I was a first grader who got called on to read. I was stuttering and I didn't even realize I was stuttering, so I'm gonna reread it right now for you. Dear Cuddle Bunny, I'm sure that you are right. What's done is done. You need not to ask for my forgiveness. Indeed, in due time, our empire shall be complete. Before you, I was half, and now I am whole. I can't go back to being half. You are the one that I breathe. You are the moon that breaks through the clouds at night, and you are all I need. I long to feel your soft skin. I yearn for your kisses, for they get me high. I hope that you stay true to your words. I shall remain strong, and sometimes I have trouble sleeping at night, but I'm sure that the thought of you before will get me through the nights. In due time, we shall be together once again, but until that day arrives, stay strong. Keep hope and have faith. I love you with all my heart and soul. Never forget that, my love, until we speak again. XOXO. Jeremy. But there were a bunch of other letters, basically Jeremy and Jasmine going back and forth. In one of the letters, Jeremy asked to marry Jasmine, and which Jasmine said yes. So technically they were like engaged at one point. When this story came out, as I said earlier, Jeremy had like aesthetic for preteen girls. So Jeremy had a fan base while he was in prison. There were teenage girls, goth and rock music sort of aesthetic girls were all outside of the courtroom on the day of his trial and outside of the prison that he was being held at, people protesting that he did nothing wrong and he murdered out of love and love should not be a crime, completely forgetting the fact that he literally dated and did stuff with a 12-year-old girl. Mid-2007, that is when Jasmine went on trial, and at this point she was 13 years old. She had 90 witnesses, which some tested against her, some tested for her. She tried for not guilty because she was under the influence of a predator, and he was really the one who was, putting fuel to the fire. August of 2007, since she was underage, she could not get life in prison. So the max sentence was 10 years, 6 of those years being in jail and the last 4 years being on probation. And that is what she got. She got 6 years prison, 4 years probation. Instead of being in an actual prison, she got what was called rehabilitative custody, which instead of being in a prison, she was put in a rehab facility. So she was given things like therapy, she was given medications because she was actually diagnosed with a lot of mental issues, but since she was again underage, all of those medical records are undisclosed. The judge actually said to her, "You can't undo what you did, but you can dedicate your life to be the proud woman that you, your brother, and your parents would have looked up to. You can't undo what you did, but there's still time to fix yourself." And so she was sent to a rehabilitation center and then 4 years probation. And as of now, she's out and about. She was released in 2011 when she was 19 years old. The rest of her remaining 4 years on probation. So when she was 23, she was completely free, like free from her crimes. Since then, she has changed her name for privacy reasons. Back in 2017, she did that. No one really knows where she's at now. So that was Jasmine's aftermath. As far as Jeremy's aftermath, the day of his trial was November 14th of 2008. He had a bunch of witnesses that was against him, and he also had a conversation with an undercover cop in jail that he didn't know was an undercover cop, and started bragging about the murder to this undercover cop. And that undercover cop ended up being a witness at his trial and saying he literally confessed to me, like he was bragging. So he clearly has no remorse and he doesn't truly believe that what he did was wrong. December 2nd of 2008, he pled guilty, but he said that he did it out of love and self-defense. That was his argument. Love and self-defense. Okay, he was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole after 25 years. Even to this day, Jeremy is still sitting in prison for those crimes. During those exchanging of letters, Jeremy had wrote to Jasmine, since you're gonna get out before me, like, please come visit me every day. Like, we could still be in love and we can still be together. But since, you know, Jasmine had went through all of that rehab and therapy, she realized that he was just a really insane predator. She never visited him once she was released. As far as the actual Richardson household, the Richardson household was abandoned, and it's today, I believe it's still abandoned. A lot of people break into it very often. It has a bunch of like no trespassing signs around it. I don't know why they just don't burn the whole house down or something, but yeah, the house is abandoned. That's basically the story of the Richardson family. Jasmine is released and out and about. Jeremy is still in prison for his crimes. None of them have spoken out, so who really knows if Jeremy feels the same way about Jasmine. If you found this interesting, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. As far as my own, Jeremy was a grown man, you know, like he was 23 years old. He could have, you know, stopped it at any point. And then also Jasmine was kind of adding fuel to the fire. What they did was wrong. At the end of the day, murdering people is disgusting and it's wrong, and you should be locked up for a very, very long time because of it. Do you think Jasmine should have gotten life as well? Like, because if Jeremy had never done it, she probably would have done it herself. And then she would, of course, get life because she was the one who killed her parents. But since she didn't kill her parents, she got a lesser sentence, but also she was super young and she didn't know any better. And Jeremy was like her only outlet to, you know, maturity. I feel like Jeremy told Jasmine repeatedly that it was okay, even though it wasn't okay. So he definitely had a lot to blame. Nonetheless, that is today's story. I went for a basic look today because, okay, first of all, I love this hat and the way that it matches my hair. This is an Arizona State University hat because it says Sun Devils on the back. Maybe it was last video I told you that Broken Planet Market was like having a drop. I got their hoodie. And this is what it looks like for those curious. Yeah, that's that. A vlog is coming soon. I know I said that like a month ago. I was like, a vlog is coming soon. And then it never came. I'm sorry about that. But this vlog is actually coming soon. It should be out. I know y'all are gonna yell at me. Like early April. I'm sorry, there was a waiting list for the place that I'm going to. But yeah, early April. You guys should have a new vlog, which is going to be super fun because I want to do more vlogs this year. I want to do at least 5 vlogs. My hair is still red, except if you go like this, my blonde is starting to come out of my roots like that. I don't mind if my blonde hair comes back because I liked being red for the time being. I used to have like a strawberry blonde before because it was like a reddish blonde, but I kind of like the dark colors on me better. I'm getting my nails fixed. Right now they're like this cross and I'm getting them done hopefully soon. Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention that I didn't post last week, and that's because whenever I don't have a brand deal in a video, I tend to not post at all because that gives me kind of a week's break in between like doing these videos all the time. And that's like the only things I really needed to say. So with that being said, I love you guys so, so much, to the moon and back. If I could kiss you all right now, I would. So with that being said, do something that makes you happy today.